Hey guys, this week we're going to learn how to properly measure. Measuring accurately is probably the most important cooking skill in the kitchen. To begin, make sure that you have actual commercial measuring utensils. Buy nested or graduated measuring cups to use for measuring dry ingredients. Buy measuring spoons to use for accurate measuring. Your stainless steel coffee spoon just isn't the correct tool. For liquid ingredients, you need a clear glass or plastic cup with measurements and a pouring spout. Here are two examples of what you might already have in your kitchen. To the left, we have measuring spoons. They usually start with a measurement of about an eighth of a teaspoon and go up to a tablespoon. And on the right, we have measuring cups. These can be plastic, metal, they come in all different shapes and sizes. The most important thing is that at the top edge of the cup is straight and level. One of the most inaccurately measured things in the kitchen would be flour. So when measuring flour, you want to stir the flour in the storage container or bag. Using a large spoon, then lightly spoon the flour from the container into the measuring cup. Do not shake the cup, do not pack the flour. Using the back of a knife or a flat blade spatula, you then level off the flour even with the top edge of the measuring cup. Do not use the measuring cup to scoop the flour out of the container. I was guilty of this for many years. It's a common thing. But when you scoop directly into the container, you end up compacting the flour and you can end up with 150% of the correct measurement if you do this. 1 cup of correctly measured flour should weigh between 120 and 125 grams, but that's the risk you take when you're measuring by volume. Sugar is measured by scooping the cup or measuring spoon into the container or bag until it is overflowing, then level it off with the back of a knife. Because sugar doesn't really compact, you don't run the risk of having too much into the measuring cup. So you can go ahead and just scoop with the measuring cup. Now, brown sugar needs to be packed into the measuring cup. The sugar should retain the shape of the cup when it's dropped Now, brown sugar, this needs to be packed into the measuring cup. The sugar should remain the shape of the cup when it's dropped into the other ingredients. So you make sure you pack it down really hard. There's no air pockets. That provides the most accurate measuring. Now, liquids need to be measured at eye level. So using the liquid measuring cups, pour the liquid into the cup, then bend over so you are the same level as the measuring marks. So looking at the measurements at eye level is really important. So the liquid should be right at the mark, not above or below. Semi-liquid ingredients. Ingredients like sour cream, peanut butter, yogurt are measured using dry measuring cups because they're too thick to be accurately measured in liquid measuring cups. It would be impossible to try to level them off inside of a liquid measuring cup. So put them into the dry measuring cup, level off the sour cream or peanut butter with the back of a knife, and you should have an accurate measurement. Shortening and solid fats. Butter and margarine have measuring amounts marked on the sides of the paper wrapping. 1/4 pound stick of butter or margarine equals a half a cup. Solid shortening is measured by packing into a cup so there's no air spaces and then leveling off with a knife. To easily remove fats from baking cups, you can spray them in nonstick spray before measuring. You can also do this if you're measuring honey. I typically will use a dry measuring cup to measure honey, and I'll do a little spray of nonstick spray so it pours out much easier. Measuring liquid ingredients in spoons. If you're doing any kind of extract or something in a small amount that's a liquid, make sure that you don't measure the small amounts of liquid over the mixing bowl. It's too easy to spill, and you don't want 2 teaspoons of almond extract when the recipe only called for 1. It's easy to overflow. It comes out way faster than you think it's going to. So make sure that you pour not over the bowl. Ingredients measured in these small amounts still have to be measured carefully. Overfilling the measuring spoons and then leveling off with the back of a knife is the most accurate way to measure. Accurate amounts of these ingredients, like baking soda or powder, are critical for the success of any baking product. I don't know if any of you have ever tried a muffin or some kind of cake and it almost has like a metallic taste to it. That's the result of having too much baking soda, and that's an inaccurate measurement. Chopped ingredients, pay close attention to whether or not the ingredient has to be chopped, diced, or minced, and whether they're measuring before or after. So if and the ingredient list, if it says 1 cup onion diced, you can assume that we're measuring a diced onion that's chopped. Um, then place the food into the measuring cup so that the top is level with the surface to get an accurate reading. Measuring by volume is usually reserved for home cooks. In the professional kitchen, measuring by volume is not the standard. There are a lot more room for error when measuring this way. So instead, it's far more accurate to measure by weight. Not only is it more precise, but it also is a lot faster, and you use way less dishes. Efficiency is the key in the professional kitchen. Has this ever happened to you? You find a tasty sounding cookie recipe and set out making it. The recipe calls for a cup of this and a half a cup of that, so you pull out your trusty measuring cups and scoop away. You know you followed every instruction to a T, but the cookies turn out hard and crispy instead of being light and chewy. What happened? Well, you probably added some extra flour and too much sugar, even though you followed the recipe. Learning how to weigh baking ingredients could be the solution to your woes. After all, I'm sure those cookies tasted amazing in the test kitchen where the pro bakers used weight instead of volume. Unlike cooking, where measurements can be flexible, baking is a science and measurements need to be extremely precise. Even an extra ounce here or there can make a baking fail. Weight versus volume. Measuring your baking ingredients using a scale instead of the measuring cups, which measure volume, is the best way to ensure the perfect amount of each ingredient. It might seem like a cup is a cup, but consider the density of your ingredients. A new bag of flour may be more compact and less full than an aerated one. And the who knows what the recipe developer had in mind when she asked you to lightly pack that brown sugar. Using a scale removes all of these obstacles because an ounce of flour will always be an ounce of flour. But it's not all about precision either. While it's mostly about precision for professionals, there are a few other reasons to use weight instead of volume in your home kitchen. While cups are the standard of measurement in most US recipes, European recipes use weight instead. A different recipe source will use different methods, so the only consistent is weight. Using weight also makes it easier for you to scale recipes up and down. Who wants to measure out a third of a teaspoon of baking powder or take the time to count out 12 cups of flour? It would be much easier to put the ingredients on a scale and let the weight do all the work for you. So what is a digital scale? A digital scale is a measuring device that reads and displays the weight of an object. Unlike an analog balance scale, a digital scale is a high quality scale that gives a more correct weight reading. A chef uses a digital scale, also called a digital gram scale, to measure the weight or mass of an ingredient, expressed in pounds, grams, fluid ounces, or milliliters. Generally, a digital scale are small, lightweight, and take up very less space on a kitchen counter. Some scales, like a pocket digital scale, are small enough to use on the go. In every professional kitchen I've ever worked in, the digital scale was a hot commodity. People use it the most often. It's the one that kind of gets lost, but also if you're doing a lot of baking, you can kind of use it very frequently. So if you do plan on ever working in a professional kitchen, and maybe on the baking station, adding one to your kit is a great idea. So then you have your own personal one, and you can use it as much as you want. Other types of scales, here we have a balance scale. A balance scale is better for larger quantities. You're not limited to the scale or the spring capacity of a digital scale. A portion scale is better for maybe you're doing 4-ounce burgers or 3-ounce meatballs. It's kind of a quick guesstimate of what your portion size is. It's a little less accurate than a digital scale, but for something like a burger, a meatball, or something like that where it doesn't have to be super precise, it's a good option. And by the way, ounces and fluid ounces are not the same. Ounces are a unit of weight, fluid ounces are a unit of volume. If measuring water, 1 fluid ounce weighs exactly 1 ounce weight. However, this ratio can change depending on the density of what you're measuring. The good news is that most of the time, 1 fluid ounce of any liquid you use in cooking